There is no safe place in South Florida tonight. These winds exceed the building code.
This is literally a painful experience. The sand is hitting us so hard that it feels like BB's hitting your skin.
What we come out of our houses to tomorrow afternoon is going to be very frightening.
You just had no idea. I had no idea that this kind of power was possible. It's just, you hear about it, but once you experience it.
The wind was whistling a death wish towards the sound of death.
Everybody needs to be where they're going to be at midnight tonight.
Picture this, you're staring out your window and a shrimping boat, the kind usually miles out at sea, is suddenly bobbing along your street.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's the kind of scene that played out in Florida as Hurricane Milton, a Category 3 beast, decided to crash the party.
Yeah.
And we're not just talking about a little rain and wind here.
Right.
We're diving deep into the aftermath, the human stories behind the devastation and what we can all learn from it.
You're right. It's more than just a storm. It's a wake-up call, really.
Yeah.
The sheer force of Milton ripped apart the illusion of permanence. One article I read described the iconic Sandcastle Swings amusement park, a landmark for generations,
Right.
as completely gone swallowed by the storm surge.
Wow.
It's a stark reminder that even the things we think of as permanent can be reshaped in the blink of an eye.
That's a powerful image. It makes you realize this wasn't just about some damaged roofs. This was about landmarks, memories being swept away.
Yeah.
And it seems like these powerful hurricanes are becoming more frequent, right?
Sadly, yes. Hurricane Milton fits into a larger, unsettling trend.
Okay.
You see, it's not just the warming waters fueling these storms. It's the way climate change is messing with the jet stream.
Okay.
Think of it as Earth's atmospheric dance floor. Climate change is like someone cranked the bass up too high, making the whole thing chaotic and unpredictable.
Wow.
These storms are packing a bigger punch, and they're showing up in places they haven't before.
Right.
It's a global pattern, and Hurricane Milton's impact on Florida is a harsh illustration of what happens when those patterns collide with our communities.
Okay, so we're talking about a major storm made worse by a changing climate.
Right.
But amidst all this destruction, I've heard incredible stories of resilience of people coming together.
Absolutely, and that's the heartening part.
Yeah.
One story that stuck with me was about a group of high school students who turned their robotics club into a makeshift drone search and rescue team.
Wow.
They were using skills they'd learned for fun to help locate missing people in flooded areas.
Yeah.
That ingenuity, that spirit of helping, it's inspiring.
Yeah. It's amazing to hear about those kids using their skills to help out like that.
Yeah.
It really shows how communities can find strength even in the toughest times.
Yeah.
But those kids are the exception, right?
Right.
Most people are dealing with the more immediate impacts of the storm. Loss of homes, displacement, the emotional toll. How do you even begin to process something like that?
You're absolutely right. It's a lot to process. Imagine the disorientation of returning home to find your street transformed into a debris field, your life's possessions scattered and ruined. It's a deeply personal experience of loss and uncertainty.
Yeah, for sure.
One source I came across mentioned that the local library in one heavily affected area had become a spontaneous gathering place for residents.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't just about accessing resources or information, it was about finding a sense of normalcy, of shared experience in the midst of chaos.
It makes sense having that familiar space to connect with others.
Right.
It reminds you that you're not alone in this.
Exactly, and that connection is crucial because alongside the physical rebuilding, there's the emotional and psychological recovery process, which is often overlooked. The sources I reviewed highlight the importance of mental health resources in the wake of disasters like Hurricane Milton. You're talking about potential trauma, anxiety, grief. These are very real consequences that need to be addressed.
So we've talked about the immediate impact, the community response, and the long road to recovery, but it feels like this goes beyond just cleaning up and rebuilding.
Right.
This feels like a moment to rethink how we prepare for the future, especially with climate change, making these extreme weather events more likely.
You've hit the nail on the head. Hurricane Milton wasn't just a storm, It was a stress test on our infrastructure and our preparedness. One area that stood out in the research was the vulnerability of coastal communities, particularly those with older infrastructure. This storm highlighted the need for updated building codes, particularly when it comes to wind resistance and floodproofing.
So we're talking about building back better, smarter, more resilient. But how do we actually do that? What does that look like, on the ground?
Well, it's exciting to see some innovative approaches emerging. One source I dove into highlighted the use of bioswales in a community just south of where Milton hit.
Okay.
Imagine these grassy trenches, almost like natural drainage ditches, strategically placed in neighborhoods to capture and filter stormwater.
Interesting.
They act like giant sponges, preventing flooding and replenishing groundwater at the same time.
It sounds like we're talking about working with nature, not against it,
Yeah.
to make our community safer.
Exactly. And it's not just about these larger infrastructure projects. Even individual homeowners can make a difference. The research mentioned the increasing popularity of living shorelines, replacing concrete seawalls with native plants and oyster reefs. These natural barriers not only provide better protection from storm surges, but also create habitats for marine life.
Wow, that's amazing. That's what I love about this kind of thinking, finding solutions that benefit both people and the planet. But with all these ideas floating around, where do we even begin?
One thing that really struck me while going through these sources was the power of community engagement. Several articles mentioned the importance of involving residents in the planning and decision-making process. After all, who knows the vulnerabilities and strengths of a community better than the people who live there?
That makes a lot of sense. It's about empowering people to be part of the solution. So while Hurricane Milton brought devastation, it also seems to have sparked conversation about how we build a more resilient future.
It certainly has. And it's a conversation we all need to be a part of.
Absolutely. It reminds me of a quote I read. We can't stop the waves, but we can learn to surf.
I like that.
Hurricane Milton was a powerful reminder of nature's force, but it also revealed the incredible resilience of the human spirit. The stories of innovation, community action, and a determination to build back stronger. Those are the ripples of hope emerging from the storm.
Well said. And those ripples, those actions, they have the power to create lasting change.
They do. So as you process everything we've unpacked today, I have one final thought for you to mull over. One source I read highlighted how communities that had invested in green infrastructure before the hurricane fared significantly better.
Interesting.
It got me thinking, could events like Hurricane Milton be the catalyst for a fundamental shift in how we design, build, and live in our world? Food for thought and hopefully a spark for action. Until next time, keep asking questions, keep diving deep, and let's build a more resilient future together.